Annette Duplessis was a woman of resource. The problem which now beset her she had handled elegantly for 4 years. This afternoon she was going to solve it. Since midday a chilly wind had blown up. Draughts whistled through the apartment, finding out the keyholes and the cracks under the doors, fanning the nebulous banners of approaching crisis. Annette, thinking of her figure, took a glass of cider vinegar. When she had married Claude Duplessis a long time ago, he had been several years her senior. By now he was old enough to be her father. Why had she married him anyway? She often asked herself that. She could only conclude that she had been serious-minded as a girl, and had grown steadily more inclined to frivolity as the years passed. At the time they met, Claude was working and worrying his way to the top of the civil service, through the different degrees and shades and variants of clerkdom, from clerk menial to clerk of some parts, from intermediary clerk to clerk of a higher type, to clerk most senior, clerk confidential, clerk extraordinary, clerk in excelsis, clerk to end all clerks. His intelligence was the quality she noticed chiefly, and his steady, concerned application to the nation's business. His father had been a blacksmith, and, although he was prosperous, and since before his son's birth had not personally been anywhere near a forge, Claude's professional success was a matter for admiration. When his early struggles were over, and Claude was ready for marriage, he found himself awash in a dismaying sea of light-mindedness. She was the moneyed, sought-after girl on whom, for no reason one could see, he fixed his good opinion, on whom, at last, he settled his affection. The very disjunction between them seemed to say, here is some deep process at work. Friends forecast a marriage that was out of the common run. Claude did not say much when he proposed. Figures were his medium. Anyway, she believed in emotions that ran too deep for words. His face and his hopes he kept very tightly strung, on stretched steel wires of self-control. She imagined his insecurities rattling about inside his head like the beads of an abacus. 6 months later, her good intentions had perished of suffocation. One night she had run into the garden in her shift, crying out to the apple trees and the stars, "Claude, you are dull!" She remembered the damp grass underfoot, and how she had shivered as she looked back at the lights of the house. She had sought marriage to be free from her parents' constraints, but now she had given Claude her parole. You must never break jail again, she told herself. It ends badly. Dead bodies in muddy fields. She crept back inside, washed her feet, drank a warm tisane to cure any lingering hopes. Afterwards, Claude had treated her with reserve and suspicion for some months. Even now, if she was unwell or whimsical, he would allude to the incident, explaining that he had learned to live with her unstable nature, but that when he was a young man, it had taken him quite by surprise. After the girls were born, there had been a small affair. He was a friend of her husband, a barrister, a square, blonde man, last heard of in Toulouse, supporting a red-faced dropsical wife and 5 daughters at a convent school. She had not repeated the experiment. Claude had not found out about it. If he had, perhaps something would have had to change. But as he hadn't, as he staunchly, wilfully, manfully hadn't, there was no point in doing it again. So then, to hurry the years past, and to contemplate something that should not be thought of in the category of an affair, Camille arrived in her life when he was 22 years old. Stanislas Fréron, her family knew his family, had brought